What is going on, everybody? Another episode of 4x4 Camping and Adventures, and today got a bit of a different one. Since putting the 33s on and a bit of more weight in the back and all that kind of stuff, I've noticed the engine's running a little bit warmer because obviously more load, all that kind of stuff. So especially when I'm on the highway. So I've done about 5,000 clicks in these tyres already, and yeah, I've sort of done a few trips to Perth. And what I'm finding is the exhaust, which essentially runs here, and it runs literally right underneath the driver's side footwell. It gets rather warm. So there's a few things you can do to sort of combat this. You can put a bigger exhaust on, but it's only a 2.5 litre and you don't want to be putting too big of an exhaust on it. Some people just slap a 3-inch on there and it's probably a little bit too big for the engine, depending on what power you're putting out, but if it's stock, it's probably a little bit too big. I'll probably say 2.75 is probably where it needs to be at, but that's another conversation for another video. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to put some heat wrap on it. So we're going to do pretty much from the dump pipe back and all the way back here in heat wrap, and just sort of take that temperature, keep it inside the exhaust, and not obviously let it get out. But I'm going to sort of take you through the steps of how to heat wrap your exhaust. So let's get into it. So still on the hoist. If you've seen the last video, which would have been the airbag video, I'm Nick's Mechanical here in Esperance, and I figured while we got on the hoist, I may as well chuck this exhaust wrap on there because it's a hell of a lot easier to do when you're you can get under here nicely. But this is the gear I've got, which is just Heat Shields products. If you've had this before, but you can get it from Supercheap or whatever, and it comes with a few metal cable ties. The only thing I can recommend is, which is a bit of a tip from Nick, is use some plastic gloves, because this stuff is fiberglass and it makes you itchy as hell, so you don't want to get into your skin. So I'm going to chuck some gloves on there, and we'll start wrapping the exhaust. So if you look up, obviously from my angle, the exhaust runs past right here, which is the driver's side footwell, which is essentially this spot here. And I want to take the heat away from that. So it's got a heat shield here, which is all well and good, but essentially what I run, because there's a bracket just sort of up here, I'm going to run it down from the back of the dump pipe, because that's going to be the hottest part of the exhaust, obviously, because it's right at the back of the turbo. And I'm sort of going to run it all the way down here, is just sort of my theory, depending how much wrap I've got. But that's sort of what I want to do, is just to sort of keep it away from, it's going to cool down the gearbox as well, because obviously it's right next to the gearbox as well. So I do know when I'm driving, the gearbox does get a little bit warm. So if you have, I've had my phone sort of next to my low range gear selector, and it does get a little bit warm in there, so it's sort of going to help that as well. So pretty keen to get into this, so we'll jump into it and have a look. So first things first, get your heat wrap, and obviously depending how long your exhaust is, or how long you want to sort of do this, depending on how long of a heat wrap roll you're going to get. So this section here isn't that too long. It's probably only 40 centimeters long, so it's probably not going to take too much. So I should be able to do the rest of the exhaust with this, but it's pretty easy to install. There's nothing sort of to it. Sort of, I'm just going to let that fall down there. Do your first section. Wrap around and overlap. And they say about a half overlap is where you want to be. So I've got a fair bit of exhaust wrap here, so I should be able to do most of the exhaust pretty easily. It does make a huge difference. So Nick's actually going to be tuning the car as well, which in turn, it's going to be running more boost, which obviously to make everything run a little bit warmer on the exhaust side of things. So I might end up getting a 3-inch, just depending. We'll see how we go. Just make sure you overlap it halfway from the last wrap. Make sure it's tight. I was actually talking to Nick about this earlier, and I didn't want to come near it with a 10-foot pole because he hates being itchy from it. He's obviously done it once or twice in his past time. So I'll just get a couple of shots when I finish wrapping this, just of the actual whole exhaust wrapped. And there is downsides to this, which I'll probably bring Nick in to talk about, because he can probably explain a little bit better than me because he's a mechanic. There is downsides to doing this as well, so I don't just think it's like a get out of jail free card, because there is a few things that can go wrong if you do this to your car. Alright, so that's ready to go. I'll just chop that off here, put the metal cable ties on there, and that's my first section done. Alright, so that should take you about 20 minutes, give or take. I've used hose clamps just to make it a little bit easier. So it's probably going to stay in there for the rest of its life, or until the exhaust rusts out. And that's a bit of a conversation that I had at the start of the video, that there's some pros and cons to this. So I was talking to Nick, and he's done this many times, and there's pros and cons. Obviously the pros, keeps the heat inside the exhaust. The cons is obviously the exhaust has moisture in it, so essentially it rusts itself out. The metal expands and constricts, so if there's any moisture in the actual exhaust wrap when it constricts again, obviously that moisture can get into the metal and obviously just rust it out. So that's the con. You can probably rust out your exhaust a bit quicker. The pro, obviously, it's just going to keep the heat inside the exhaust instead of letting it go out of all the rest of the engine bay, or in this case underneath the car. But it is a bit of a finicky thing to do, and you probably want to have gloves and long sleeve shirt and all that kind of stuff, because it does make it a little bit itchy because it's got fiberglass in it. But that's pretty much the basis of it. So what the reason, as I said, the idea I did this is to keep the heat out of the car, and that's purely because I put the 33s on it and the extra load. But it's just one sort of little step that's going to just keep the heat out of the actual cabin. But that's another episode of 4x4 Camping and Adventures, and as always, I'll see you in the next episode. I might even see you on the tracks and trails, but pretty quick, pretty easy video on showing how to exhaust wrap your car. And as I said, if you have any dramas with heat getting into the cabin or engine bay, or you want to stop heat getting from somewhere, this is the stuff to use. It was about 60 bucks a roll, roughly, and this did pretty much half my exhaust. So yeah, cheap and easy way to pretty much keep heat, obviously, in the car. So I'll leave it there, but I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you out there. See ya.